So today, I want to finally get to the bottom of something. I'm going to answer a very important question this month. How does one get into Digimon as a franchise? This is a troublesome topic that many people have commented on over the years, and I don't deny that it is a complex hurdle. For those who don't fully understand, let me recontextualize the discussion thusly. Well, what is Pokemon as a franchise? One might say it's a video game series that branched out into a multimedia empire using the games as their basis. And that's great. So, let's use this same logic. What is Digimon? Well, now we have a problem, don't we? Is it the Pendulum Keychain games? Is it the video games? Is it the anime? What is the core of Digimon as a franchise, and where does one even start? I actually did a Snack Talk a few years ago about the anime, and I think my thoughts on that are still valid. Gonna leave a link in the description so you have a little bit of background context. Also, I will be strongly limiting usage of anything from the anime or related things because I don't feel like getting a copyright strike from an animation studio that is very eager to dish them out. All that out of the way, I'm going to try to crack the shell around this Digi-Egg of mysteries for all of you today, because it's no secret that I love me some Digimon. Let's get to it. Greetings everyone, this is the Hipster Snack. And today, as promised, we're going to dive into the digital world and help people find where you can get started in Digimon as a franchise. But before we get cooking, we need to define our terms. So let's start up the glossary of terms first. For those who are already fans, this is going to be just reviewing the basics, so feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp on screen if you want to get into the deeper part of the analysis. For those who have no idea what I'm even on about, you're in luck. Welcome to Digimon 101. Your instructor is Professor Snack, and do take notes, there's going to be a test at the end. Now, to get started, we have to ask the question, what is a Digimon? To begin with, Digimon as a word is a portmanteau, two words combined together to make a new one, made up of the words digital and monster. Basically, imagine extremely complex, self-learning AI programs who take the form of living creatures entirely made up of data and living in a world much the same. Digimon start their life cycles as eggs called, wait for this, Digi-Eggs. Once hatched, the Digimon proceeds through its various life stages in a process called Digivolving, or Digivolution. In short, fresh, in training, rookie, champion, ultimate, mega, and ultra. Now, this isn't 100% true for every single Digimon. Some don't have certain levels in their family trees, and there are only a small handful of ultra-level Digimon in the first place. Also, these are the dub-exclusive names for their power levels. There's also a Japanese naming system, but it ultimately doesn't matter which one you use, as ultimate is not ultimate in either sense. That said, I'm going to stick with the dub names because that was a system that I was first introduced to, so there's my bias being admitted. Anyway, when a Digimon dies, its data breaks down to its most basic forms and re-enters into the digital world as a new Digi-Egg to start the process over again, with most of their old memories compromised, but some vestigial leftovers remain. Thus, a Digimon who was once bad might come back as a good Digimon next time, and vice versa. Digimon take their names, themes, and powers from aspects of the real world. This includes animal motifs, myth, legend, religion, human culture, machines, weapons, and more. This is why a Digimon's name can basically be explained as the prefix being some cool word or name, and the suffix ending in mon. Thus, the rookie-level Digimon, Gabumon for example, gets his name from a Japanese onomatopoeia for biting, hence his name would be Biting Monster, who digivolves into Garurumon or Growling Monster. That's a Digimon in a nutshell. And because this is Digimon, there are always exceptions to this rule, and certain Digimon do tend to break this mold. For example, Digimon that are considered freakish or abnormal like Arcadamon or Gizumon don't change names when they digivolve. Speaking of, some names aren't consistent in translation either. This Digimon here in the West is Gatomon, but named Tailmon in Japan. Weird? Yes. Welcome to Digimon. Digimon can also form new Digi-Eggs by exchanging data between two monsters. Digimon are, by definition, genderless and ageless, and they don't have an understanding of things like familial relations, unless you happen to be Cutemon, because I swear Cross Wars exists purely to vex longtime fans such as I. In fact, this is actually a huge plot point, and I'll get more into it later on. So the creation of a Digi-Egg is something usually done at the human's discretion, oftentimes referred to as the Digimon's tamer. Digimon data can also be scanned in order to make a copy using the Digimon capture system seen in many of the video games. Digimon scale in power at what might be compared to as a logarithmic basis, as with each life phase they digivolve to, they become absurdly strong. Mega-level Digimon oftentimes have their powers and attacks compared to the strongest of nuclear arsenals as a baseline, and many exceed that into the realm of myth and theological implications. In short, Digimon are kind of insane, and it's part of the reason why they need to be kept in their homeland of the digital world. What is the digital world? The digital world is a difficult thing to explain because the explanation behind it is oftentimes not consistent. It's made up of data like the Digimon themselves and reflects the real world in some respects, but it is a wholly unique entity unto itself. But the where and how of it changes between the different continuities. In some, it's made up directly of the data from the ever-growing complex digital devices of the human world, and in other places it's always existed, independent of human technology, and the advent of high technology has only worn the barrier between the two thin. The digital world is also not the internet. Those are two completely different concepts, but they do intersect at points. The important thing to know is it's always present, its origins notwithstanding, and is home to the Digimon and other digital lifeforms that are technically not Digimon, but we're not going to get into that this video. So, more importantly, how do humans and Digimon interact? Digimon as AI programs are extremely complex, but they are somehow or the other in some unspoken fashion fundamentally incomplete. Thus they are drawn to human emotions, especially very strong, very raw emotions, and thus are oftentimes drawn to young children and befriend them and become their guardians. Again, this varies a bit by continuity, with some claiming that only children can tame Digimon, and others disregarding that and explaining that any strong emotion can draw the Digimon's attention. Often, human tamers obtain a Digivice, a tool that connects them to their partner. Digivices come in many different shapes, sizes, and come fashioned with different utilities depending on the series and context. The D-Arc in Digimon Tamers has a card-swiping functionality to empower Digimon, and the D-Tector has a barcode scanner that someone must have thought was a good idea at some point for some reason. The important takeaway here is the Digivice is the proof of the bond between the tamer and the Digimon, and leads to both becoming stronger and growing as individuals and as a team. The bonds of friendship and courage are the greatest strengths that a Digimon can draw upon, and a Digimon loved by its tamer is sure to become a great partner. So, what's the endgame? Digimon as a franchise is a shonen action comedy series. The plucky youths meet their Digimon partners and grow alongside them through various shenanigans until some kind of grave threat reveals itself. And the humans and Digimon work together through their issues in order to rise above and defeat the impending looming villain. It's really that simple. Digimon stories do not tend to be particularly complex. So the real question is, with all that understood, where do I start? Okay, that's much less simple, and it's going to hinge in no small part based on your individual tastes. Now is the time to start breaking down the franchise by the terrifying number of mediums it's encompassed over the years, and trying to break it down as best as I reasonably can. I'd really like this video to not be 10 hours long, so here we go. We're going to start with the anime, because this was most people in the West's gateway drug. I'm going to keep this part brief because, as I said before, I did a full video on this a couple years back, and it's basically accurate up until the launch of Ghost Game. No, I still haven't watched Ghost Game yet, sorry. But here's the quick version in chronological order and my opinions on each. We start with Digimon Adventure 01. It's good, but it's poorly paced. There are 14 and later 16 main characters, and it gets crowded really fast. The Digimon designs are good, and the slow-paced intro is a good way to dip one's toes into it to see if it's for them, but some episodes are basically little more than padding to get each season to its mandated order of episodes, and some of them really feel like it too. I'd argue it's good overall, but I feel the ending was kind of rushed, and the series as a whole had some issues, again, mainly with pacing because there was just too much going on. Next is Adventure 02. It's bad, and it's poorly paced, and it shows in some of the worst ways. They tried to trim the cast down, starting with only 6 newcomers, but then all the original 16 characters show up too, so that didn't help. The series also introduced armor and DNA digivolving, and while those are cool, they aren't really used to their fullest potential, as once again, main character syndrome takes over and only one of them gets to go all the way to Mega, so that's kind of frustrating. The plot is a jumbled, confused mess, and it's very obvious that there were mid-season retcons and a lot of content that got chopped. In fact, as I understand it, the WonderSwan video games actually have a more cogent retelling of what was supposed to happen, but O2 for some reason just decided to reuse an O1 villain in order to conclude its series. The entire series is a confused, aimless mess that just got really, really badly off track. Next is Digimon Tamers, and this one's my personal favorite. It tells one tight, ever-evolving story with a focus on a small handful of characters and their Digimon partners. It uses the process of a Digimon digivolving as a metaphor for growth through childhood into adulthood, and the uncertainty and trials that entails in a really elegant way. It's also a lot darker, clearly designed to recapture the fans who fell off due to O2, and does it in a great way. You should watch it whenever you get the chance. Next was Frontier, and Frontier might be the worst part of the anime. The humans don't even get Digimon partners, and by the way, the humans are just rehashes of characters from O1 anyway. They become only what I can call Super Sentai Digi-Rangers and never win any fights. The Demon Lord Digimon get introduced here, and those guys are fantastic, but this series is so bad that for many years it single-handedly killed my interest in this franchise. Hard pass. Next was Data Squad, or Savers, and it's great, but not as good as Tamers. This is also dubbed by Disney in addition to Frontier rather than Saban, and there were some odd censorship issues that do rear their heads here and there, but overall, it's a bit of an homage to Adventure 01 without being a copy of it. The series is more action-focused and tries to cater to older fans who might have gotten back on board since 01. And it tackles a lot more complex themes like manhood, romance, betrayal, and full-bore psychopathy. Next was Fusion or Cross Wars. It's good, but it's a bit of a mess. Season 1 has a tour of the digital world motif with pacing issues due to needing to get the Code Crown item from each zone within the world, akin to a large-scale strategy game, causing some bits to either be super fast or super slow-paced. Season 2 has a more traditional storytelling approach, just trying to stop the bad guys. The extended cast is somewhat underutilized, and the Fusion/Cross system doesn't fix the power creep the original Digivolving systems had. They may have made them worse in some ways. Season 3, Digimon Hunters, is good, and it serves as a tribute to all that came before it, and an appropriate send-up to those series, and it's probably the series' strongest point at the very end of it all. I'd say it's worth it. And next was Appmon, and if there was ever a contender for worst in the franchise other than Frontier, it's definitely Appmon. It's off-brand, it barely even feels like it's a Digimon series, and in an attempt to modernize the storytelling, it's among the most dated and soulless among the anime series. The main character is boring and has no character arc, as two friends heavily rely on dated internet trends and Japanese pop idol culture. The Appmon designs are pretty good, but the new faux fusion system is worse than fusions somehow, creating more power creep issues and form inflation than any past series. It's a slog to get through because nothing really happens other than learning that the thinly veiled Apple parody is the bad guy. Shocker. And that's it, because I haven't finished Try, and I haven't even started Ghost Game or Adventure with a colon after it. In terms of starting points, the animes are not a bad choice, especially Adventure 01 or Tamers or Data Squad, which are good about explaining their systems really well throughout. But what about the mangas? Well, the reality is we didn't get them. And some of them, like D-Cyber, were also kind of bad. So let me sum it up by saying, I cannot officially advocate for any course of action on this. But I can say that I've heard rumors somewhere on the internet that there exists sites that have these things called fan translations. And Digimon V-Tamer is really, really good and was kind of the groundwork for all things to come after it, as it helped shape what Digimon as a franchise would be for years to come after its publication. If you can read it, you ought to, as it makes for an excellent onboarding point in its own way. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the Digivice toys. I'm going to keep this short as a very broad overview because there's entirely too much to get into, and if you want to know why, take a look at this wiki page. There are so many iterations and generations of these toys. This is insanity. And they're all different. Some of these are V-Life pets, some of them are pedometer games, and others have different gimmicks completely. The vast majority of them never left Japan. I only own 2 of these myself, the 20th anniversary Keychain V-Life game and a D3 pedometer game. There's also stuff like the Wonder Swan Digital Monster version Wonder Swan, or the Sega Saturn exclusive Digital Monster version S, which were basically high-res Digivice games that even had a peripheral that transferred data to the Digivice toy. And while at one point some might have argued this was the truest starting point, I don't think that notion holds any water anymore. The Keychain Tamagotchi for Boys concept may have been its origin, but it's clear that Digimon as a franchise has come a long ways from that point. If you like V-Life ones, I recommend the 20th anniversary keychains, as they have the biggest number of options available. So, next up, let's hit the video games. I'm not even going to try to do this via installment. The script is already running way longer than I thought it would already, but I'm going to break it down by the series. The Digimon World games are a very diverse set of games that explore humans venturing into said digital world, with World, the first, being a hybrid RPG V-Life game, repeated in some ways in Redigitize and Next Order. The other World titles are usually variant RPGs with different takes. World 2 having some dungeon crawler elements, and World 3 being a bit more traditional JRPG experience. Next is the Digimon story games, including World DS, Dawn, Dusk, Cyber Sleuth, and Hacker's Memory, which are more thematically and mechanically consistent, with turn-based combat and more direct control over the forms that the Digimon will digivolve into. These are my personal favorites of the Digimon games, and I think the easiest to get into, if you don't mind the fact that they're all really, really grindy. Then there's the Battle Spirit and Rumble Arena games, which are Digimon fighting games, and I don't like them very much. If that's your jam, hey, you get enjoyment out of something that I don't, and to each their own. It's just not for me. And last are the MMOs and the mobile games, which are all universally complete and utter garbage. Do not waste your time or money on them. They don't deserve it. So, all that long-winded exposition being said, are you confused and totally overwhelmed? Yeah, that's what being a Digimon fan feels like. It's a lot, and I didn't even know just how many bits of the mythos end up contradicting one another. So here's the secret to getting into Digimon. Dive in. Pick an anime, pick a segment, or a game, or a manga, something, and just start from the beginning and go for it. Most of the different settings explain themselves well enough that context clues will fill in the rest. If anything resonates within that experience, then broaden your digital horizons one step at a time. Where do you start? Anywhere you want. Pick one of the many new beginnings Digimon's had, and make it yours. It might be a lot to take in at first, but I think with a little persistence, in the end, you'll call the digital world home, just like many fans have over the years. And if you just want to hear what my opinions on the matter are, I would say Tamers, Data Squad, Cyber Sleuth. Go from there, go with Yggdrasil, Yon Tamer. This has been the Hipster Snack, and thanks for joining me on this franchise-wide skim over. Anything catch your interest? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you like it, and hit the subscribe and bell icons because it helps me out a lot. Who's your favorite Digimon? Mine's Gallantmon. Let me know in the comments down below. Join me here for more like this every week, and I will see you there.